The Boss and the Sauce Show.
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 What up, though? We live and direct right now. Who-Bangin Sports Talk, Thursday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Well, 6 p.m. on the west, 9 p.m. on the east. What's going on? I got my guy Big Ragu in the house. How you feeling, Big Ragu?
What's happening Thursday night, my man? When you said 6 to 9, I says, man, we're doing a 3-hour show tonight, but it's all good. Whatever we got to do to get the job done, we're going to do it. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing absolutely fine, man. I got my screen over here open to the chat, and it was playing at the same time. I was a little spaced out right there, but you know, it's every Thursday night. It's been a lot of nights, man. We in the 12th week right here, Big Ragu.
Wow.
How you feeling about the 12th week of this? Let's go back to when we was doing this in July when we started with the previews. Could you imagine we'd be right at this point right here? Even though that was the goal, you know, to continue going, but it kind of went by kind of fast. What you think?
Yeah, it's not so much as what you and I did, but yeah, I mean it's been a whirlwind as far as the time factor goes. But you know, every year college football starts up, you know, we get all anticipated for the season, and we blink an eye and it's almost over. So we're looking at about another 3 weeks here. You got some teams that are going to be playing some homecoming games. You got some teams that are going to have some byes, and you know, 3 weeks from Saturday, that's going to be it. We'll be talking college football playoffs in no time, flattening bowl season.
For real, for real. You know me, Big Ragu, each week, you know, I try to give the people a little piece of my ideology of what we're going into each week. And right here in the 12th week right here of college football, it's a very interesting week. Like you said, we do have a few schools still haven't had their homecoming yet, which will be up you know, very soon, if not this week, some of them next week. But also, we have senior night. A lot of teams are facing their last home game, and it's going to be senior night for them. You know, some teams have their last home game as early as 3 games out. Some of them are 2 games out right now. But, you know, it's going to be last home game. Seniors are going to be coming out. Last night we had Toledo. It was senior night over at Toledo, and we seen Toledo give a hell of a push in the second half to tie the game up, which all shows signs of seniors. I really think the coach over there did him a disjustice in what he did with the field goal and the timing situation. That was just horrible. I mean, the coach only has one job, to tell you the truth, and that's to manage the ball game. You know, he usually has other coaches in other areas to handle other things for him. And his main itinerary in the whole game, just as good as he thinks the quarterback should throw the ball to the open receiver, the running back should run through the right hole, he should make the right decisions on how to manage the game, especially with they had at least a shot at a field goal late right there, and he let the time dwindle away. Was you checking that one out?
That's your typical MAC action type of game there, you know, just especially when you're talking about these, you know, mid to lower tier teams. You know, they're not the sharpest guys on the sidelines, but you know, there are some good coaches at that level. You know, you got McElwain over there. You got the guy, Frank Zolich has been there forever. So, yeah, you expect better. The kids, they deserve to be coached up just a tad bit better there. But sometimes they make bonehead moves. They do it at the pro level too. So it's all around the sidelines. Not every week, but, you know, it just gets magnified when you see it on TV like that.
Yeah, well, it set me back a bit. I was going in on senior night, and I actually found one right there, and I took Toledo last night, but I also had the over in the pick 6 contest. Mind y'all, I am number 85 in the pick 6 contest.
Congrats
right now.
on that.
Out of 2,000 plus people, I'm right there, number 85. But yeah, I did have the over in the pick 6. But and thanks again, Big Ragu. I'm sorry. You know, Toledo in that game right there, they should have came out victorious in that game. You know, I was heavy on Toledo. They were coming off a week's rest. It was senior night. They had all the bells and whistles of a winning squad, but just kind of failed themselves, I guess you could say. But it's tough like that. It's conference play. That's another thing we have to take into consideration. This conference play. These teams play certain games. Some of these games have trophies that go along with them. You know, they're named different things that have history and all kinds of stuff behind it. So when you guys are out there trying to find a game this week to find you an angle in, you got to be careful. You got to do all your homework, dot your I's, and cross your T's because, you know, it's tough out there right now. Anything else you see might be a clue on this last week to getting a good angle?
You know, I'm a big proponent of you know, tough conference games when they, especially when they've got some history, the schools amongst themselves. Like one's coming up this week. Your team, Notre Dame, is taking on Navy at the South Bend, and history has Notre Dame on the winning side of the coin. You know, I think out of the last 26, they're like 22-4 straight up in that series, but Navy's done a good job covering the number there. So that's something you got to go in there and read between the lines. That's a game that I kind of put together in my contest play, and I'm looking at probably winding up on your side of the field with Notre Dame. I don't know if you like anything in that game there, but I know Navy. You know, they're going to run the option, and Notre Dame's seen it plenty of time. But you know, each year it gets harder and harder to stop. And it's funny because every year you have the academy team. There's always one of the academy teams that's always in the top 25 program in the AP polls. This year's Navy's turn. You know, past years it's been Army, and years before that was Air Force. So it seems like it goes cyclical with those teams. You know, even though they know what's coming at them, it's a hard look to stop. You know, so I don't know what your boys are going to do this week to slow them down. But I looked at that game on paper, and all the numbers match up. You know, yards per play, scoring, defense. The only edge I see Notre Dame might have is I think they can possibly move the ball downfield. Book, you know, can make some stuff happen with his legs. Navy, they hardly ever throw the ball. I mean, they're going to run the ball like out of 100 plays, they're going to run the ball like 98 times. So you know that's coming. But once in a while, they might have that trick play in their pocket to at that right opportunity to make it. You know, they might need that one special play at one point in the game. That's when they'll draw it up and pull it out. But I think Notre Dame is probably going to get the win, whether they cover the 7.5. That's going to be the big question. But I went with Notre Dame. I'm going to roll with your team, the Irish. One thing for sure is going to be a lot of gold helmets on the field smashing each other.
Well, I tell you, you got me right into the good stuff already, and I took a couple looks at this game. You know, I'm always trying to be a man of my word, but it seems as though I cashed a ticket that I bet in Vegas prior to leaving, and I actually took Notre Dame on that ticket, and I folded that ticket up and I hid it for myself. But going into the week, I ended up jumping on the other side. Just didn't really trust the offense over at Notre Dame. I even mentioned a few times that I would fade Notre Dame, you know, every game all the way out because, you know, I think there's not enough offense there. Book is just a ticking time bomb to me from having the worst game of his life. But which he had a pretty bad game against Michigan. But I think he hasn't even meet his all-time low because he's not playing with the enthusiasm. He's not playing with the leadership, and he's not even that accurate. And he doesn't have that, you know, growl of the tiger to win the game. So, you know, I almost want to fade Notre Dame again this week. But this Navy team last year, I went to the game last year here in San Diego, and in that game right there, they were minus I think 21 or 22. They covered that in the first half, and then they kind of let it slip away in the second half. So this year, looking at the game, I think it was at a 9. I don't know what it is now, but it was at a 9 when I looked at it.
7.5.
At 9, I kind of, you know, kind of like last week, I took that Notre Dame at 7 and it went up to 8. That's what threw me off, and I went the other side because it went up to 8. But on the ticket, I had it at 7, which I liked it at 7. And against this Navy team, I think I like it at 9 as well, considering that we were 21 last year. So I think I really like this one at 9 for Notre Dame. I want to back Notre Dame, but I'm probably going to look a little closer into the total. We do well against that option. We've been seeing it for years. All the option takes to stop is discipline and we definitely have a disciplined team. And the coaching staff at Notre Dame, they adjust well. So even if they got off to a good start, I think that they would make the necessary adjustments in the second half. And I think I'm going to follow with the 9, but I probably wouldn't give it as a play because for me, it'll sound way better, Big Ragu.
Yeah, well,
But
you're
for
not going to
me,
get the 9. It's at 7.5.
I'll take 7.5.
Yeah, I'm saying if you like the Navy side, a lot of guys that I spoke to, they think the number should be higher, but they don't want to back Notre Dame. They're scared, but they want more points with Navy. So they're like, yeah, we want Notre Dame, but we don't want to lay more than a touchdown. But we don't think Navy's getting the right price. So which is it going to be? So it's probably a lot of guys are going to be on the pass side of the game. And maybe just enjoy a cold one to watch it. Who knows?
Yeah, that's probably exactly where I am with it as well. That you took the words out of my mouth with that one. Like knowing it's at 7.5 now, that's a lot more reasonable for Notre Dame. But Notre Dame loves leaving the back door open in games. So when they get up to the 8 and the 9, just like last week, it worries me. But with a team like Navy, historically, X's and O's and all, 10 points is a fair spread for Notre Dame in this game. I think they covered the 9. I'll probably bet it, but I won't tell nobody.
Yeah, that's all right. It's good to be a closet bettor like me. I do it all the time, so don't feel bad. See, like tonight, just for a perfect example, I went out on Twitter tonight and I tooted my horn with Pittsburgh, saying it's a short drive up the road. I'm talking pros now, NFL. And I hate Thursday night NFL. I really do, with a passion. But, I wanted to put a little play out there. So, I stuck my neck out there with Pittsburgh. How is Baker going to score points? And right now he's looking pretty sharp on the field, and Pittsburgh's looking not too good here. So they're dropping balls, and Pittsburgh and Cleveland's making the plays so far. So looks like an L so far. But we'll give Mayfield a chance to throw a couple picks later on. We'll see what happens.
Hey, well, I was getting ready to lean Cleveland, but Cleveland has been so up and down. I was scared to take them minus points. They got to be minus for a reason, though. Yeah. But I took a shot at the over because it was set kind of low. You got OBJ over there on Cleveland who might put up some touchdown. Then you got a quarterback and the Steelers that's still trying to prove itself. So
exactly.
And then, you got Juju on Pittsburgh as well. So could be a high flying thing, but it doesn't look like it's going to work out for me either right now, Big Red. Yeah. But I got a short number, so I got plenty of time to catch up.
Yeah. I like the money line and the side with the price, plus the 3 and plus the 135. But it's a short number. It's, that's the NFL. I have a theory, NFL. If you like, I'm not going to try to bet an underdog unless I think the team actually has a chance to win the game, and that's my philosophy there. So I'm not going to back a team to sit here and say, hey, maybe if they can just hold on and not get beat that bad, I'm not looking to back teams that way. I'm looking to get on teams that are, have a shot to win the game. And in my book, the way Pittsburgh's been rolling, they've won like 4 of the last 5 games, and their only loss came to the Ravens, and they lost that by 3. And their defense has been playing really well. They have been overachieving just a little bit in my book, and they had to go on the road, which is just a little road trip down. Pittsburgh to Cleveland is not very far. It's like a bus ride, and but the Thursday night thing that always comes in effect. It always seems like the home team has a major advantage on the Thursday night games. But to me, this wasn't really that much of a big advantage because the travel wasn't that far. But both teams coming off Sunday night. And Cleveland's been some hard luck. They've had some hard luck too. So, and I'm sure that the Sharps, here we go again with the Sharps, and they were back in Cleveland here, which here's the way I view Sharps. Sharps or square, whatever you want to call it. You either win a ticket, you either cash a ticket, or you rip it up. So the money doesn't know who the Sharp is. When you go to cash a ticket, that's who knows. That's a winner right there. So there's no such thing as a Sharp or a square in my book.
Hey, that's why we say see you at the window. Like we can just get rid of all that he say, yeah, all that stuff, and just say, you know what? If your bet or what you're talking about is good enough, or your angle, whatever it is, I'll see you at the window. Or you might not see me at the window, however it go. But Make sure everybody tunes in right here to the Who-Bangin Sports Talk Show, Boss and the Sauce, right here every Thursday, 6 p.m. on the West, 9 p.m. on the East. And let me give a roll call to our chat today. We had our guy AT33NC in the house today. Of course, we got Bird Girl saying, "What up, fellas?" We got OG Wham says, "Hit the like button, y'all." And we also got our guy from Canada, Josh Point O, in the building. And we also just had Nasty Nate just pull up, and our guy Unbelievable. But we just a few minutes in the show right now. We're gonna get rocking and rolling on some looks in college football this week. And I got a couple picks I can put out there. You got a couple picks, Big Ragu? You want to get to the picks first and get to the good stuff last?
Yeah. Shout out to our Carolina gang, and shout out to Eric, who was really – our guys really were impressed with Eric from the Carolinas. They liked him a lot. And shout out to all those guys. They're watching this show tonight. And we miss you guys from the trip a couple weeks back. So where do you want to start? You want to start out in the Big Ten here? You want to talk about this Penn State game? We already talked about Navy. Let's talk about the Georgia-Auburn game.
Okay, to me, that's probably –
yeah, to me, that's going to be the game of the day. There's a couple games of the day, but to me, that's probably going to be the knockdown, drag-out game that everybody's going to want to see because of the fact that, Georgia, they're in the hunt to win the SEC East. And they control their own destiny here. So they're going to match up with probably LSU in the SEC championship. And we know what happens automatically for the winner of that game. They wind up being probably the top seed in the college football playoff, going forward. But anyways, the look on Auburn that I have here is Auburn. They played a lot of tough games on the road with Bo Nix as quarterback. Nix, I wouldn't say he's he's not a bad quarterback, but he has trouble, moving the ball down the field. He's young. He's got those games under his belt now, those tough road games. He lost two of them. He lost two. He lost one against LSU, and he lost against Florida. So that's not bad. Those are not bad losses to lose. Then they won that tough game, first game of the year at Oregon at Jerry's World. So he pulled that one off. Now he's going to come up against Georgia, another solid team. But, they're going to be playing Jordan Hare and Auburn and in front of a home crowd. And the look here with Georgia is, though, Georgia's defense hasn't allowed a rushing touchdown all season. And Auburn, they're definitely going to have to run the ball if they're going to be successful because of the fact that they can't put the whole game on Nix's back here to put points on the board. But I think Auburn could muster enough offense to kind of stay in the game, but really the game is going to be on the back of their defense. Now, we keep hearing how good their front seven is, probably tops in the nation, whatnot. Georgia, Fromm has had some issues putting the ball down the field this year. He's been pretty inconsistent, actually. He had a lot better year last year he had this year. But at the same time, the running back that Georgia has, I'm lost for his name right now. I had it on the tip of my tongue. It's gone. But anyways, Georgia's running game, it's always been pretty solid. So I think the key matchup is going to be more or less. It's not going to be if Auburn's going to be able to run the ball against Georgia's defense. I think it's going to be on the Georgia offensive line and the Auburn defensive line, and where they're going to create opportunities for them to run the ball and take the pressure off of Fromm, and vice versa for Auburn. So I tell you the truth, I think the under is a better look in this game. It's a low number. I think it's like in the low to mid 40s. I think this is going to have one of those games where you're probably going to be looking at maybe like a 19 to 17 finish or a 21-17. That's the kind of look I get on this game. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of offense either way. You're going to see a lot of movement up and down the field, but I think once they get to the red zones, I think both defenses are going to really put the screws down, and there may be a turnover here or there is probably going to be the difference in this game. I mean, the number indicates that's 2.5 points in Auburn. I would take the home team, if any, and probably the under here.
Well, when I looked at this game right here, now this is a great part about this season. Is early in the season I have to go extra capping, going into the next level to watch videos to see exactly how these teams play, who's what, and all that kind of stuff. Now, at this point of the season right here, I've seen both of these teams play, enough times to have, really kind of shoot from the hip for this one, because I haven't really looked at the numbers on this one. But what I can say is what I've seen in Georgia is unseasoned chicken. They do have the size, they have all the makeup of a great team, but they don't have no flavor in that team. And what I noticed when they played Notre Dame is the strategy Notre Dame had that kept them alive was to go around these big guys. These guys are big and, for lack of a better word, fat. These are big fat guys. They're not big, trim guys that can move around. They definitely couldn't run like zone blocking and stuff like that. They try to use their big size to bully people. And this team Auburn right here, now we tried to count them out, stump them out several times, and they have shown and improved every time in Auburn. They've been up against all kinds of adversity. They play better teams, you could probably say, or it might be kind of even because Georgia stepped out to play Notre Dame, but they stepped out to play Oregon. So I don't know. You can
they
probably
competed in a lot of those games, though. So they were competitive in every one of them.
I would have to lean with Auburn in this one. I'm not really convinced on Fromm over there. I mean, a lot of these quarterbacks this year don't really impress me. And this guy is one of them, unseasoned chicken again, And when we play these small schools, I'll run the score up, put my stats up high. And then when we play these tough schools, I'll just throw outs and quick little route. I won't really test myself. I haven't really seen that quarterback that either can run threat you to keep you on your heels, step back, throw the long ball. Maybe a guy over there at Ohio State, and maybe that's why they're doing so well. But he has like an awkward, unorthodox type style about what he does. You really can't really tell 100% if he's the Justin Fields guy. If he's like a running quarterback, or can he really? We don't know. Yeah. And we're 12 weeks in the season, and this guy has just kept you unbalanced this whole time. But Fromm over here, I don't get it, and then a lot of times these big schools, these boosters and all that kind of stuff, they have to make that narrative around the quarterback that they chose because they collectively made those decisions to recruit these players and get them there, and they back them, which I understand that some of them know their moms, their dads, their situations and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, some athletes' talent level just stops in college and they're not really pro type some of them compete well in college. So, if I had to take a pick in this one, I'd take Auburn. I have to do my weather check and some more stuff because the under could be live. And, when you in conference play and you meet these big teams seeing each other, rarely do you see teams like Oklahoma that have a game plan to say, I'm just come out here and outscore these guys. I mean, most of the time these guys try to beat them, running the ball in the trenches, stuff like that.
Yeah, look what happened last week with Alabama LSU. I mean, who would have funked that one, right? Right, 2 miscues right away, and the game flew. I mean, flew over the total. It wasn't even that wasn't. I mean, LSU imposed their will on Bama. It seems like as far as their game plan, whatever Bama's game plan going in didn't work for them. So LSU really took it to Alabama last week. So, and the funny thing was, I've been saying, and I've said it many times over the past couple months. I was saying that LSU is the best team. The best team in the nation, when they were ranked like in the 6, 7, 8 range, starting out in the season a couple weeks in. But Joe Burrow started gaining traction, and nobody's been able to slow this team down. And right now, hell, you could have got him in Vegas, not when we were out there, but, probably 4th, 5th week in the season, you could have got him like 200-1 as a Heisman candidate, and then his name started surfacing up more and more after he had that key victory, when they beat the Gators, and then what was the other one they had? But anyways, I think it was before the Gator game. But anyways, then it went down to like 60-1 and 20-1. Now he's like I think he's like 2-1 to win it. So, but that's how quick it changes in college too. Just it doesn't progressively change; it changes on the heel, on the dime. So like what happened with Oklahoma, they were Hurts was the leading candidate. Everybody's like, no way they're going to have three back-to-back-to-back candidates come out of Oklahoma Heisman, but Hurts, he was on track for that, and then when they took that L, it kind of took him off the radar a little bit. So speaking of
Yeah.
them, what do you think about the Oklahoma game coming up this weekend with Baylor? How about Baylor's last week, that victory they had against TCU? That was an exciting game.
Yeah, I could say though, from watching little bits and pieces of that game, that Baylor didn't look impressive until they started coming back. And when they started coming back, it kind of reminds you why they were in the spot they in as far as their record being undefeated and stuff like that. You kind of noticed that as they came back, but during the game, you was like, oh, this is the one right here. This is gonna happen. But they did a nice job coming back. Now I don't know. We might have to go back to July and August when we did those things. And I wasn't high on my guy Wimbush, who didn't do too well at UCF. They're not doing the best. They didn't make it to the next level like they wanted to. And Jalen Hurts, who did give up the win, even though at one point in time I talked to one of my buddies and we were talking about Jalen Hurts, and we were like, maybe Oklahoma, he has it in his eye that he wants revenge on his old team and he want to meet them
Right.
in the
Makes
championship.
sense.
But it's no chance for that no more. I don't think that's in the equation anymore, is it?
Yeah, it is. Sure it is.
It is?
There would be an at-large team right now with them, because if they go ahead and run the tables and Georgia takes a loss, let's say they get upset, and let's say you have I don't think LSU is going to lose, but let's say you have let's say if you have a two-loss Georgia team or a two-loss team from the East, now you're not going to have, possibly, two teams from the SEC. More than likely you will, but Oklahoma's got that outside track to get in there, because you're going to have Ohio State, you're going to have Clemson, and you're going to have the one team from the SEC. So that realistically leaves you one team outside the conference. So I mean, who else outside the not the Power Five, but one team that's in the Power Five that can sneak in there? And I think Oklahoma is going to be one of those teams. I mean, if Baylor beats them, then they deserve, they got to still play in the championship game. I made a mistake the other day. I said there was no Big 12 championship game. There is a Big 12 championship.
Mm-hmm.
So they could possibly meet up again. After this game here, they could probably play again.
Well, if they get that tough in the Big 12 and they beat Baylor in this game, they'll be tied, but then they'll have to see each other again in the championship game.
Correct.
They beat them again. I don't know, that type of sometimes we see that kind of drains
usually
life
goes
out
the
of
other
the
way.
team.
It's hard to beat a team twice in the same seasons in college. Alabama, LSU used to do that every now and then. They'd meet up in the. Remember when they met but they played for the national championship that year. But
right, but that's not to mention that if they happen to do that, they still have to end up in a college playoff, system nowadays,
right.
where they have to play additional 2 games on top of just playing this team 2 times. Well, it'll be 3 times in the season. No, it'll be 2 times in the season. Plus, now I got to go into this playoff bracket and win 2 big games right here.
Yeah,
I think it's just too much. Student athletes, all those type of factors, travel, it just gets way out of hand. And only teams like Alabama that are all set up for all of that kind of stuff can really adhere to all that different, physicality and all those different big games.
Yeah, I mean, they want to expand it to 8 teams one day, but when they do that, that'd be a whole nother story. But for the most part, these teams, I think they start running on adrenaline, because, what happens with most of these teams, don't forget, at the end of the season, they're sitting around for a month, I'm not saying do nothing, but that's why these bowl games are so hard to predict. And a lot of times,
Right.
because it's like the teams are who's really up for these games. Who's really wanting to, go out and be motivated to play. You never know, because you're sitting around for a month. I say sitting around. These teams are waiting to play. You got kids that think about going in the draft. You got coaches changes. So there's a lot of factors that go into I call it postseason. It's not even playoffs, it's bowl games. But you can imagine how they do the same thing for prepping for a playoff system. So, and then they got to, come back to back weeks on top of that. So yeah, I would understand, some of the physicalities involved because it happens in the pros too, except it's a little more physical game because these guys are getting beat up pretty. The game's a lot faster at the pro
Yeah,
level than it's at college.
absolutely. But and then, but even the pro level, you're not considering finals and they little girlfriends at school and all that good stuff. But
Right.
I got to give a shout out to the chat. I'm getting I wouldn't say harassed, but I'm getting a lot of questions in the chat in regards to me being a Notre Dame fan. To my guy Avery, I never played for Notre Dame, but it's always been my favorite team since I was a little kid. I started watching Notre Dame the year before Rocket Ismail ran that back against Colorado. That was the year when I really took attention to Notre Dame. So I tell a few people this story they know. The neighborhood I grew up in as a little kid, it was full of guys, very few little girls, and all we did was play sports. We were so involved into the game, even though USC was 3 miles up the street, we were so in tune to the game that we all had different teams. Like we were kids in South Central. I got buddies that like Colorado, Miami, Florida. That's just how we were raised in that neighborhood, and I always took to Notre Dame. And as I stuck to it, as I got older playing ball and stuff like that, it got to be fun for me actually, because in those days we were doing really well. But when all these USC fans started coming in the Pete Carroll era, I was a big target because I was probably like the only Notre Dame fan in a lot of sectors where I was at and stuff like that. But that's how I originally became a Notre Dame fan. I follow the team so closely. That's out of all the sports, all the teams, that's probably my favorite team, even though I'm a Niners fan as well. But that's like my favorite team. I follow it real well. And, it's I guess you could say it's in me, not on me. So I'm a Notre Dame fan. So that they cleared that up. Did I clear that up for him, Big Ragu?
That sounds like a story if I ever heard one right there, man. Yeah.
But that's it right there on how I became a Notre Dame fan. Now let's jump into that conference we was talking about right there. Let's go ahead and finish off what we was saying right there. Now in this conference over here, we got Baylor number 1, Oklahoma number 2, Texas number 3. I kind of feel bad for Texas. I had
not me.
I had good hopes for Texas. Well, I think they burned you a couple weeks ago, didn't they?
They burnt me every game this year.
But we expected from early for them to have a bigger season. They had a good coach, but maybe this is a learning lesson for them. I hope that they finish strong so they don't start putting the coach on the hot seat and all that crazy stuff. And Oklahoma State, they pretty much everybody underneath Oklahoma and Baylor in this conference is pretty much out of it. Unless let's see, if Baylor beats Oklahoma, they'll have another loss, and then they would probably need to lose again to get out of the conference championship. So let's move over to another one. What did we say we were going to? SEC?
We're going to look at the SEC and the Big Ten, and probably be good looks to talk about here right now. You want to look at the SEC?
Let's go for the SEC. So I see let's start with the East. First off, we got Georgia 8-1, Florida 8-2, Tennessee is 5-5. Yeah. Then let's go over to the West. We got Louisiana State is 9-0, Alabama's 8-1, Auburn is 7-2, and then we have Texas A&M at 6-3. Correct. So underneath those, I don't think anybody has a chance underneath those. I'm not sure if Auburn has. I mean, Louisiana State. Let's see. Take a look at their schedule. See if they have any other hiccups that can stop them from winning right here. Let me see. So they have Mississippi this week. They have Arkansas, and they have Texas A&M.
I'm going to say something real quick on this week. Okay, they got to play Ole Miss. They're 21 points favorite at Ole Miss. Coming off of that huge game. I mean, there was nothing bigger. That's probably the biggest game other than winning a national championship in recent years for that team. Now, we know that Ole Miss doesn't have a lot of they offensively. Now, here's the weakness of for LSU, and this is something Ole Miss can do. I'm not going to say they're going to win the game, but Ole Miss can run the ball pretty well. And LSU they have a little bit of trouble with the run. That's their one weakness, if any, on the team is the run. Secondary wise, they're dynamite. Offensively, what they do very well there. But in order to keep them off the field, Ole Miss is going to run the ball. So I don't think they're going to win the game, but that might be a good. It's probably a good gambler spot here for a semi letdown. Not so much that they would lose the game, but if there's ever a time for a letdown, this is probably going to be the only one you're going to get by the time the end of the year rolls with LSU. And then they got Arkansas and then A&M, the last game of the season at home in Death Valley, an afternoon game. So this is a night game in Oxford, Mississippi, coming up this weekend. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to bring that up.
Oh, no, Mississippi is one of the teams that I followed early in the season. They brought back 10 players on defense, and they played pretty good at the beginning. But since then, I've kind of shied away from them. They had some adversity on the offense, which they kind of nipped in the bud, and the offense got going, but then they kind of got some injuries on defense. So I've been kind of shying away from Ole Miss. But with the defense that they have, I looked at the 21 points and said, "Is that too much?"
I was going to say the only way they can slow LSU down is run the ball and keep them off the field. Because once LSU's offense gets on the field, they're going to score. You know what I mean? They're going to score it, and they're going to score fast. And they're probably, I say, depending on how many possessions that. If Ole Miss can, run 60 plays in this game, they might hold LSU to 40-something points. If not, then, you're probably looking at 60-plus points here for LSU, maybe 60
yeah, I wouldn't. 20. I don't think I want to get in front of LSU with that one. Coming off, even though they may be banged up off of that victory, but they coming off a victory. That's a big victory. That's like a victory they've been waiting on for a while. They may be excited and they may have the talent just to walk through this team. And let's go back to some of the things that we talked about early in the season. We talked about in this conference specifically that there was a clean decipher between the top and the bottom. And here we have Mississippi. They're second from last on the West. And they're 4-6, so they definitely represent the real bottom. So I don't think I would want to jump in that one, even though it looks kind of tempting over there. I don't think I want to mess with LSU in that one. I would either take LSU or kind of pass on that one.
Yeah, well, they beat New Mexico State, Vanderbilt, Southeast Louisiana, and Arkansas. All teams with losing records, so they're going nowhere fast as far as that goes. But whether they can sustain a 21-point differential, like you say, I'm not going to step in front of them in this spot.
Yeah, I don't know. But it did. I seen it just like you said it. Like I seen it as a spot that could be wide open. But I don't think I want to play LSU. It might be one of the greatest LSU teams they had in a long time. So I don't want to play with a bottom barrel team. If LSU were playing Auburn at this point, if they were playing Florida or maybe even Tennessee or South Carolina at this point, I would maybe consider that could be a possibility. But I think this team is locked and loaded. LSU is a team you're gonna see in the playoffs, like it or not, and they may win it all. We don't know. We have to keep watching, but. Let's jump over to the East, which we talked about the Georgia game we got coming up. They're number one over there, 8-1. They got Florida 8-2. They still got a chance, but look how they drop so fast over here, Big Ragu. They go from Georgia at 8-1, Florida at 8-2 to Tennessee at 5-5.
Yeah, real thin at the top over there.
Yeah, so
and that's why that game that first weekend of November is such a key game for that side of the conference. Whoever comes out of that game, and they were both undefeated, I believe, at the time, right? When Georgia played Florida, they were like 6-0, 6-0, whatever it was. And that was a key factor there. So that puts the winner of that game in the driver's seat. But actually, no, I take that back because I think Florida, Georgia had already taken their loss to South Carolina. So if Florida would have beat Georgia in that game, they would have been in the driver's seat. But they lost. So that was the end of that.
Now, Florida has Missouri coming up and FSU. So let's say if Georgia does lose to Auburn, you think that gives Florida a shot to sneak in there? We did have Florida
because they got the tiebreaker. They both have 2 losses, and Florida Georgia beat Florida already, so they got the tiebreaker.
Oh yeah, so That's a done deal over there then.
Yeah, more or
So
less.
Georgia, so that's more reason to think Auburn can beat Georgia because Georgia can't be affected if they win or lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Unless they lose 2 games in a row, then and Florida wins out, then that's the
which
difference.
let's see who Georgia plays. I doubt that's gonna happen. They usually the athletic director who sets these games up. They pretty much know how to set them up for success
Yeah,
towards the end.
they
So
got
let's
Georgia
take a
Tech
look.
and A&M might be a tough spot for Georgia the following week.
A&M,
Yeah,
A&M, but let's see where A&M is on the whole totem pole.
yeah. A&M's not bad. They're 6-3, and they got a big game coming up this week.
So they might have they have a shot at a good bowl game.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I like A&M this week. That's one of the
The
other teams I
A&M
like.
actually needs Auburn to lose. They go up to the number 3 spot.
Correct. They're playing A&M's playing South Carolina, and South Carolina is banged up pretty bad. They're big price at home. They're giving like 11, but I like A&M to cover that number this week.
That's a good one because South Carolina is absolutely beat up. I don't know
Yeah,
how they've been pulling it off. And South Carolina looks like a bottom of the barrel team there. They're
yeah.
4-6. They're on the side where it's a big drop off. So
The word
that's
is
a
out. The word is
that's
out
a
on the coach. He's going to be gone after this year.
oh
Yeah,
wow.
Muschamp. He's probably going to be gone. They listen. South Carolina when they beat Georgia in that upset game, that big win about 5 weeks ago, 4 or 5. They've lost 4 out of 5 games after that loss, and they took 2 bad losses. I'm sorry, us 4 games out of the 5, and they took a loss to Tennessee, bad team, and they took a loss last week at home against Appalachian State. So, so that not only did that give them some bad losses, but also took them out of a bowl game because they're sitting right now. They're sitting at I think they're sitting at 4. I want to 3-6. I want to say. So if they lose the next 2 games,
Uh,
they'll be like 3-7, whatever the number is. Anyways, they're not. If they lose it, they lose one more game, they're going to be out of a bowl scenario. So
mm,
and they're more likely they're going to lose this game here, and then they got to bye, and then they got to play Clemson, the cross-state
wow.
rival. So they're probably looking at 2 more losses. That's probably going to be Muschamp's last game at the Clemson game. He's got a nice
Wow.
house on the lake near where my daughter lives up there. I've been by his house before up
Oh,
at
okay.
Lake Murray up in South Carolina. Yeah, he's a nice guy. You know, he's a guy you probably want to have a beer with, but I don't want him coaching my football team.
Uh, they might take him over at USC.
Don't bring him to Florida State. That's all I got to say.
Let's take a look at this. We getting close to having to give out those picks. Let's take a last look at the Big Ten before we go any further, because I think we were due to do this update on these conferences. It just, I don't know, it just seemed right today,
Yeah, well,
considering.
I mean, you're getting closer now. You know, a few games left and shaping up the conferences. Not so much for championships, but more or less, bowl implications and college football playoffs. You know, because we know the teams that are gonna anybody that wins 6 games in college is automatically a bowl contender. I mean, I remember last year they had a couple 5-7 teams, which is because what they've done over years, they keep adding these cheap ass bowl games. These early December games, and they. I remember when there was like 20 some odd games. Now they're up in the 40s. Like 41, 42 college bowl games, which is a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's money involved, so they
Oh
can
yeah,
probably keep expending that.
oh yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about the Big Ten right here. Now, I think Ohio State is just a shoe in over here, but Penn State is behind them at 8-1. But this Minnesota team, man, the Minnesota team was tough. I was lucky to be on the right side of them last weekend. And Wisconsin, they lost 2 games. I don't think they have a chance. That means Minnesota can still lose 1 game and probably still win their conference, right? And Minnesota is looking at Iowa, who a lot of people.
What happened? We lose him? He's out. Let's bring him back in. See if we get him back in here. All right. So, anyways, We're talking about the Big Ten, right? Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois. Minnesota is 9-0. Wisconsin 7-2. Illinois 6-4. What happened? Now we got Ohio State on the east side, where they're 9-0, the juggernaut team that they are. Penn State 8-1. Indiana's been a surprise team. This team has been 7-2, but Indiana's got a tough game coming up this week. They got to play Penn State. Now, Penn State, after taking that ass whooping that they took last week, you better believe they want to come on strong and be ready for this game. So they're probably they still got a shot to compete here, but they're going to need a lot of help. They're going to need somebody to take down Ohio State, and I don't know if that's going to happen between now and college football, playoffs. So Penn State's probably looking at a New Year's Day bowl somewhere, but they're going to come up against Indiana. Indiana has scored like 36 points a game. So the scheduling comes back for this Big Ten. Every time we look at a team that does well in the Big Ten, they say, well, who have they played? Who have they played? It's not even matter who they played. It's just the way the schedules work out for them. And then when they play the tougher opponent in conference is when it seems like they take the L in that regard. So anyways, that game coming up here, Penn State is going to be playing Indiana, and they're playing at Happy Valley. And I don't see Indiana kind of hanging around with Penn State here. Even though the number is strong, it's 14.5. It's a big number to cover, but I think they get the job done at home after that ambushing they took at the hands of Minnesota. Minnesota is a juggernaut. I mean, PJ Fleck has really got that team playing good football up and down the field. Well-respected program. I think a lot sooner than most people thought. I mean, it is his third year, so we'll see Minnesota up on the slate. Let's see who they got coming up this week. So Minnesota's playing Iowa. So Iowa is kind of a mundane team. They do a lot of things well. Nate Stanley is a good quarterback. Kirk Ferentz has been there a long time. Team plays solid defense, but I think Minnesota's got a little too much for these guys. They're playing at Iowa. If that game was at nighttime, believe it or not, that's a real tough place to play at night. For some reason, it's a real tough place to play. It's an afternoon game, so even though they're still playing at home, I still give the nod to Minnesota here. I'm not going to say it's going to be a letdown game because Fleck has got these kids really, really focused here. And for the most part, let's go on to another play that I like. Okay, I'm going to look at a game in the Big East. I'm sorry, the AAC. I'm looking at the Temple and Tulane game. Now, Temple, early in the year, I had a lot of backing with Temple early, and Tulane has been a pretty good team also. The coach over there, he runs he's run up-tempo offense, a really high up-tempo offense. They've scored a lot of points all year long. The tougher games they both had, like Temple, for instance, they're yielding about 25 points a game. And they had to play two of the tougher games they played was UCF, where they gave up 63 points, and they also played SMU, where they gave up like 45 points. But even with those numbers coming in, they still managed to get a 6-3 schedule so far with those two losses there. But now they got to take on Temple. I keep saying Tulsa. Temple at home's taking on Tulane. Tulane's a little banged up in the running back scenario. Even with that hurry-up offense, it's going to kind of put pressure on this team to score points down the field in different ways. They're dinged up in running back, but they like the up-tempo style. Now, this team also yields 25 points a game. So, and I know at one point in time, Temple's linebacking crew was probably tops in the nation. I can't say that for right now, but They have taken some bad losses, but at times they've shown some pretty good, pretty good, pretty good defense on against the run, especially. So, I mean, even though they're banged up on the run, so that kind of puts pressure back on the quarterback for Tulane. So what we have here is we got a 50. I think it's a 55-point total that's been bet down to 54, but the side has taken some sharp money. The game opened up at 3. Now it's all the way up to it's up to 6. So there's been some sharp money. Look who showed back up.
Made it back.
So anyways, the side went from -3 to 6. I'm talking about the Temple game here. Had a line move from 3 to 6. So
Okay.
I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the total here. I'm going to get away from the side because the majority of the bets are coming in on Temple, but the line has a reverse line move. The line's going Tulane's way, so that took me off the game there. Plus, I kind of like Temple a little bit, but I'm leaning towards the under 54.5. I think that's more of a solid look. Both teams, like I said, yielding 25 points a game. You know, it gives me like basically a little better than a field goal cushion there to cover that number on the underside. So, and that's what I got for my look on that Tulane Temple game. I'm on under 54.5.
I think in that game I like Temple. I heard a lot of people talk bad stuff about Temple, but when I early in the season when I was on Temple, they did really well, especially at home. This team would look like they were going to be hot to trot for the season, but they had some woes, and they in the position that they in now. But in this matchup right here against Tulane, I think they're the better team. I think they're the better class team. I think they have a better coaching over there, and I think they have better class athletes than Tulane. Tulane may have a better scheme. They have a better scheme on offense, and they have a better scheme on defense. But I don't think they can beat this Tulane team in this game that's needed right here.
You mean Temple has a better scheme?
I mean,
Tulane?
yeah, I'm all lost up. See, I'm thinking about my kids right now, and let me tell you, yeah, the kids pulled the plug. How did you know? They did it to you before?
Yeah,
they pulled the plug.
I threw mine out of my house, so that's the difference.
Oh man, it's gonna be some time, but I love them to death. But sometimes I just don't like them. But let's keep it going, man. We got a few minutes left, man. I'm gonna drop couple plays of mine. I already missed my Toledo play I had, but I did have the over for the week. Let's jump into the Utah State and Wyoming game. And this one right here, there's a quarterback that's replacing Sean Chambers. He's out for the season for suspension or whatever is going on over there. But this quarterback has total different attributes than Sean Chambers has. Sean Chambers is a real running quarterback. This guy is kind of tall. He could throw the ball a little bit. And last week he went for 1 touchdown, no interception. So he knows how to protect the ball on a team that really runs a lot anyhow. So I think he may be something that Utah State, who's having kind of a down year. I expected a lot more out of Utah State this year. But they're 5-4 right now. They're 4-1 in the conference, so they look like they could be in the driver's seat. But I think they can catch that L this week to this Wyoming team. The Wyoming team is very physical. They have a really good offensive line. I think they're just a little bit class above Utah State in this one, and I'm taking Wyoming plus the 6.5 in that one. Next, I got the Air Force and Colorado State. Now, everybody know that I've been on Colorado State a lot of the times for the whole year. And once again, I'm on Colorado State again. They're giving me 10 points against the Air Force team that I think is overvalued. I don't think this Air Force team seen an offense like Colorado State. They run a zone run sometime. They could toss the ball in the air a little bit. And they have a defensive line that could probably hang a little bit with Air Force. But I don't really trust the defense. I'll probably lean the over, but it's up to 60. If it comes down a little bit, I definitely catch it over. But at 60, you're expecting both teams to score a lot of points, which could be the case in this game right here. So you might want to lean over on this one. What I want to say, Colorado State right here, they have the number 23 offense in college football, which is surprising for a team that's 4-5, but they're 6-3 ATS. So definitely taking them ATS plus 10 points. But there is an issue with the running back. Kinsley, he's going to be out. He's suspended. But at the same time, There's also a injury with the running back over there, Renberg, for Air Force as well. So that kind of evens itself out. And my last pick, Boston the Saw Show, my number one pick for the week right here. And I've been told be careful of teams that's -1.5. You usually want to be on the plus side of this. But from watching these two teams being in the Mountain West where I do it the best, San Diego State, Fresno State. San Diego State, I think, gotta do it this time right here. Fresno State's kind of on a down year. They were expecting a down year. They lost a lot of offense. They had defense. Now the defense is not doing that good, and the offense is doing a little bit better. But this here San Diego State team, probably one of the best defenses that Fresno State is going to see so far in the season. Top-notch defense here in the Mountain West. Their defense is ranked number 8 in the country. They're only giving up 14.4 yards a game to a team like Fresno State, who's been kind of on the iffy side on offense. It's going to be real tough to put the ball in the air, yellow long run against San Diego State. And I definitely taking San Diego State as my 2-unit play in the pick six. I'm taking San Diego State -1.5. Those are a few plays for them, Big Ragu. You got any more plays for them?
Yeah, the one I told him I reeled off. I was talking about Penn State beating Indiana. I think Indiana is a fake 7-2 team. Penn State's going to be angry about that loss that they took at the hands of Minnesota. Minnesota last week. So I like the Minnesota play. I like the Penn State play. Excuse me. And then I already told you about the Texas A&M. I'm on Auburn. I'm on Notre Dame, and then the last one I'm going to be on is for style points and coming out of the woodwork to try to get back in the national pictures, Oklahoma. I think after that big triple overtime win that Baylor pulled off, hell, they didn't score any points till like late in the game. There was a 9.99 game up until that field. They had to make that field goal to tie the game up. So Baylor's not a bad team, but I think Oklahoma's going to have too much for them to answer back. It's a big number. It's like 10, 11 points, but I think Oklahoma gets the job done here. That's my best bet of the week is Oklahoma.
I like that. 100%. And once again, you are tuned in to the Boston the Sauce Show. Comes on every Thursday, 6 p.m. on the West, 9 p.m. on the East. Shout out to all of our people in the chat who showed up. Paco Healy, Dom Ricci, Noli Knows, Nasty Nate, Unbelievable, Josh Point O, Joe Anisi, Girl. Shout out to all y'all that showed up today, man. And big shout out to our guy, AT33NC. Said he enjoyed the whole hour and that we're the bomb, Big Ragu. Let's put that up right there for y'all to see. And it's our pleasure out there, AT33NC. But we getting down to the end of the hour. Just want to let y'all know we got a lot going on right here. Who-Bangin Sports. We got new shows coming out. And tomorrow, and this is his first time announced, I haven't even tweeted this out. Tomorrow we got a very special show with a very special guest, Dave Boston, ex-NFL player, also a handicapper as well. He watches us on the low bag as well as the Pick Six show. He's going to be joining us tomorrow and the whole team on the Who-Bangin Sports Lounge, 6 p.m., 9 p.m. Eastern. Come join us. We're going to ask him some very important questions because I've been getting killed out here, Big Ragu. They're saying that the homecomings don't matter in games. They told me that in the chat in the Betting with the Bag show. They telling me a lot of my angles, which are working, are not worth anything. I guess I'm just a crapshoot every time I pick a pick. But
what works for you? It works for you. That's all that matters. Screw what they think. It works for DJ. DJ's going to the window, cashing the tickets. Let them argue. Let them think what they want.
Hey, to tell you the truth, Big Greg, I've been doing this for so many years. I don't know no other way to do it. So not much they can say. And there's one for you. Nothing much they can say can really put me the other way. It actually excites me to keep going. And also make sure that you guys tune in Monday. Same time, 6 p.m. on the West, 9 p.m. on the Eastern. We're going to be debuting a brand new show, Light It Up, with our guy Don Ricci. It's gonna be a little bit. It's gonna be on sports, but it's gonna be some off topic subject. It's not gonna be very many picks on there, but we're gonna have exciting topics like is the games fixed? Why should players sit out? Anything you can come up with it, hit us in the email, hit us in the comments. We'll make sure we bring it up in the show. And if you want to get on the show and you got something to say, let us know. We'll put you on the show and you can have your time to say what you want to say. You got anything else to say to him, Big Ragu?
No, I encourage everybody to keep, subscribing, liking, smash the like button. That's important to us. But also tell your friends, and then Friday nights, every Friday night, same time, we have the lounge, and that's when we encourage everybody to kind of, get involved with the show. We bring on guests, and like DJ says, tomorrow night we got our ex-NFL player, handicapper coming on. That's going to be a treat for everybody to kind of, get his angle from the other side of the field. Here's a guy that's been on the field and played professional sports, and he's involved in handicapping now, which some of those guys have done that in the past too. But it'd be real interesting to hear his perspectives. But just keep the applause coming, keep the likes coming, and we'll keep putting the content out here for you guys.
Absolutely. And if you want to catch us, we are now being dual screened. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're right here on YouTube. And we're also on 150 digital networks with 11 sports. Right now, you can catch us on Twitch, Exumo, and more. So just stay tuned, tell a friend, and we'll be getting right back at you.
The Boss and the Sauce Show.
Boss and the Sauce Show.
Boss and the Sauce Show.
Boss and the Sauce Show.